This week's video is the first in a series where I'm going to talk about how I got my autism diagnosis, and this first video talks about going through the right to choose process here in the UK. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back, lovely people. Very tangle. Today's video is, sorry, it's a bit random, yes. Hi, I'm Random, and this is Captain Pip Digby, and welcome back, lovely people. Thank you so much for choosing to watch one of my videos today. Welcome back. This is my random beginning. I could start this again, but I'm not going to, because over here on this channel we do things authentically, unmasked and raw. And yes, so if you're tuning in for the very first time, then you know this is what you can just expect. So I've been promising you these videos for a while. I wanted to talk about how I got my autism diagnosis, and today's video is about the process here in the UK called Right to Choose, because we have huge waiting lists here, and using the Right to Choose process can often mean you can get an assessment much quicker, which is what I did. So I'm going to talk you through that process today. So let's get stuck into that. But let's just first show you my furry tangle, which is just amazing. I love to sniff it. So if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I started exploring more seriously whether I was autistic back in 2024, the beginning of 2024. And with the help of a support worker, she suggested that I put in a referral, which she helped me to do. That was the beginning of 2024, where I was still on the fence about, do I really want or need a diagnosis? Is it really going to help me? But she'd kind of encouraged me that it was such a long waiting list that I might as well put in a referral, because then I could just think about it while I was on the list. And I got a letter back from the autism service in my area to say, you're on our list. We can't tell you how long it will be because the list is that long. In kind of some other wording, but that was it. And I was told by groups and forums in my area that it was multiple years long. And at first I wasn't overly concerned about that, because I was like, really, I'm just, you know, I've been in such denial about my autism and such a point of imposter syndrome, I suppose. I was like, can I really be autistic at the age of 50? Can I really, you know, that kind of feeling. So, you know, but at the time I was also starting counselling and talking about, you know, am I really autistic? Let's think about this. And within just a really short space of time, as I've shared before, it was very much like the veil of denial just lifted. Well, it wasn't so much lift as just kind of crashed and shattered. Mask shattered, the veil flew off, the floor fell out from under me. I took the blue pill, red pill, whatever it was, the matrix, I came out the bath, all the stuff came off, whoa, and it was obvious I was autistic, really obvious. And then it became a case that I really wanted a diagnosis. I thought about, you know, I could just, it was a self-discovery thing. I could just declare myself autistic, and that's equally valid, especially in these times where trying to get a diagnosis, a professional diagnosis is so hard. It's very valid. But for me, I really needed that professional input, somebody to actually kind of look at me, assess me, and tell me, you're definitely autistic. And suddenly the idea of years was incredibly painful to me. And I'd heard about this process of Right to Choose. Now, what it is, basically, is in order to address these huge waiting lists, they brought in the idea where you can go to another provider outside of your area that's got shorter waiting lists. So this has opened up loads of different providers, private providers, having contracts where they can provide NHS assessments for people that aren't in their catchment area. So there's lots and lots of different providers that you can look at, and then ask your GP to refer you to. So I had a little look around at the providers that people were going to look at what the waiting lists are. And there's a list online that actually shows you all these different providers, all of the approximate waiting times and the assessments that they provide and where they are. Now, I was just looking for an autism assessment, so that's what I was looking for, but some of them provide both autism and ADHD. At the time, I was just looking for an autism assessment. I will put the list and all the links to this below. I found a provider called Skylight Psychiatry who had offices near me, because that was important, because they had to do at least one of their assessments face to face. Now, it all seemed a bit overwhelming, the whole process of actually approaching my GP, telling them I wanted to enact my right to choose provider, tell them who I wanted to use, and all of these different things. It all seemed a bit like terrifying, and would my GP agree to it? But luckily, a lot of these providers actually have their own section on their website telling you step by step what you need to do if you want to be a right to choose client. And Skylight Psychiatry had this very clearly on their page. It gave you an actual template letter to send to your GP and all the steps that the GP needed to do. So that's exactly what I did. I downloaded their template letter. I just filled in my GP's name. I wrote a little brief letter myself to explain why I wanted this, the fact that I'd already gone through this with my support worker, and I just sent that off to my GP and absolutely bricked myself in case my GP would say, no, we don't want you to do that, we want you to stick with the provider. But it is actually your legal right to do this. Your GP cannot say no. It's your legal right. Recently this was challenged and it looks like things were going to change, but it is still happening. So this is something that you can still do. If you're on the waiting list and you've been waiting a long time and you're really wanting your assessment now, then you can go through a right to choose provider. It is your right, and if your GP says no, then you can challenge this and get another GP. My GP was lovely. He rang me up and said, absolutely, you're 50 years of age, you just want an answer. Absolutely. I've got no problem. I'll refer you straight away. So all I had to do was fill in a AQ10 questionnaire, which is a basic autism multiple choice questionnaire where you just tick your answers, and that gives you a scoring of your autistic traits. And I had to give that to the GP as well, for the GP to forward, and also a basic why you're looking for an autism assessment. So I filled that in as well, and also put that I'd been working with this support worker who had referred me to local services, but then I'd also been working with a counsellor, and in doing that over the last few months, I'd kind of realised even more just how many traits I hadn't realised were very autistic, and I put that on the form as well. So it was early-ish September that I put in for this right to choose through my GP. The 17th of September rings a bell. I think it was around about that time. And that was to put all of the forms in. And then it was the 3rd of October that I got a text message from Skylight Psychiatry to say that they'd received everything. And then they sent me a link to then go onto their website to properly register and fill in all my details so that they could start the process. So that was incredibly quick. And then once I'd done all the registering, they sent me an appointment date for the 10th of December. So it really wasn't long at all. Comparing to what I thought I was going to be waiting for was like 3, 4, even 5 years, had just become like months. I'm so relieved I found out about Right to Choose, and there were so many people that aren't aware of it. So as I say, I will put all the links below if you're interested. If you're in the UK, it has to be UK only, and you're looking to get an assessment, you've been on a waiting list, you're waiting ages. As I say, everything you need to know are on these people's websites, but I'll also put it all below as well. If you're looking for an autism assessment or an ADHD assessment, the process is the same. and I put all the links so you can find out the providers that do either or both. I'll put everything below. And having that template letter is absolute gold, because then it avoids having to kind of explain it to your GP. If you've got the template letter and you've already written out why you want this autism assessment, why it will benefit you, then you can also give that to the GP as well, so they know clearly why. Because obviously in the moment it can be really difficult to explain this. So having that already written out, you can either give it to them when you're in the GP surgery, or if you're on the phone to them, you can just read it out as a script. So you can actually say, this is why I want the referral. I've been on the list for a very long time, or I know the list is a very, very long list, and I really feel I'd benefit from a referral now, and this is the reason, and then read it out. And it's so much easier, isn't it, when you're prepared? Because if you're like me, in person or on the phone, it just completely frees up when it comes to explaining these reasons. So yes, I really hope that was helpful. As I say, I went through the Right to Choose process here in the UK. I asked my GP to refer me through Right to Choose to Skylight Psychiatry. I got him to refer me in September. Skylight Psychiatry acknowledged my referral in the October and offered me an appointment in that same December of 2024. So really, really quick. Incredible. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about the assessment process, how I was assessed for autism with Skylight Psychiatry. So if you have any questions about the assessment process, particularly about Skylight Psychiatry or the assessment process in general, please do pop some questions below. If you have any questions about the Right to Choose process, again, just pop some questions below and I'll be happy to answer. But yes, I hope that was helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.